But employee turnover is one of the most expensive leaks in an HVAC company. So recruiting costs, lost productivity, training time, cultural disruption, they all compound quickly. And so a disciplined turnover KPI protects gross margin and preserves field performance before the financial damage shows up. Okay, so pretty straightforward, calculations here. And so we have a data set, pretty basic data set. You might not have this much information. And if you want this file with the completed solution and all my formulas, there's a link to download it, or you can just email me. But essentially what it is each month you just put down each employee. You can add this information if you want. If you have, say, less than 50 employees, then it's really not going to be, you don't need all this information. The main thing you need for this specific KPI, when were they fired? So each month you add the employees, and then were they fired? Yes or no. And then you have an active count as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to count the number of active at the end of the month. And then we're also going to count the number that were terminated or quit at the end of the month. There's voluntary, involuntary. And then we're going to just create that chart. And it looks like a pretty empty chart because it is, which is good, right? You don't have a lot of turnover. And so what we need here is we need the month. And so we need a unique list of the month column here. And this is the month end. If you do this once a month, then you just have the month end. You don't need to do this every day. Okay, so the next thing we want, active head count versus separation, and then do a 12-month rolling. So I'm trying to copy and paste this, but you can just type that in. So all we have to do is do a COUNTIF function. So COUNTIF, it's active, and the month is, January 31st, February 28th, so on. So here, COUNTIF this, the status column, comma, and then make sure to use quotations, is active, and then the month end here, comma, is B3 here. So you can just drag that down. And then separation. So we have a column, separation in the month. Yes. So if they were terminated or quit, then just put a yes for that employee. And then you don't put them, you don't put that employee in future months. So this is in a future date. So what we did here is we just went back to any time before they quit or were fired and put that date there. But you really only have to do it in the date that they were in the row that they were fired. But I'm trying to build an in-depth data set. So here we just do again another COUNTIF. This time instead of counting active, we're going to do separation in the month, comma, yes, and then comma, month end, and then B3. So B3 again, B3 is right here. And so, yeah, so nobody quit or was fired in that month, but if you double click down, you can start to see there's a couple. And so now for the 12-month rolling, we need to go essentially 12 months, which is here. So we can start here. And what this is going to be the sum of this divided by the average of this. Right? So essentially you're going to say, okay, 3 employees of the past 12 months. Let me just press enter here. So in other words, what this is saying is of your total headcount, 11% of them quit or were fired in the past 12 months. And this is based off of an average of this column. And then you can just double click this down. Press Control-Shift-5. And then you can see all the percentages here. And then 0 just because the past 12 months nobody quit. And then you can have a target range here. You could do, I think we had 20% here. So you can do 20% across here if you want, and then equals this. But 20% is still pretty high. You're losing, 1 in 5 people every year. And now we can create the column or the chart. So we're only going to use the separation column and then the moving average and then the target. And so I'll show you how to do that. Just highlight this and then hold down Control and you can highlight these other ones here. I think my camera just went out. Then you can highlight these here, go to Insert, and then Recommended Charts. And then you can sort of see it's making a little bit of sense. So what we want is go to All Charts, go to Combo, and then here, the 12-month, and then the target. We want both of these as a line. So I'm going to choose line here. And then we want both of these on their own axis. We don't want, 0% or 0.36 to be on the same axis as, 1. So I'm just going to double click secondary axis for both of these. And so now you have your chart. The rest is just a little bit of housekeeping just to make it look a little bit better. So the first thing is I'm going to double click this green line, and then I'm going to make it a lot smaller, a lot thinner, and then make it black. And then you can make it, if you want to make it with, you know, dots. We just want to see it. We don't want it to take up a lot of space. And then for the values, if you want the values here, then you can click on the column and get the values like this, or you can click on the line if you want the percentage like this, or if you want everything, which doesn't really make much sense because it's too noisy, you could do like this as well. So however you want the values, what I'll do is I can do just the columns, but it's just one every time. Let me do the percentages here. So I'll click here, do the data labels, and then I'll click on the data label and I'll put a light background to it just so you can see it. But again, it's a little bit noisy, and you just move some things out of the way. I'm not going to move all of them out of the way, but you can see how you can do it that way. And then the last thing I'll do is I will change, I guess second to last thing, I'll take the title, add this title, and then here I'll put the percentages because we don't want 0.2, we want it to be a percentage. So I'll double click, this format axis will pull up, click the columns, go to number, and then go to percentage, and then we don't want any decimals, just the percentage. And so yeah, that's how you create it. Pretty straightforward to create. It's not the most important HR metric, but it's just just one that is pretty easy to update if you find it valuable, especially if you have a lot of turnover, because this is this is low turnover. But anyways, as always, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email, questions@databoards. And then here, if you want this file with my solutions, there's a link to download it. If you need some help with your KPIs, getting your data structured, other KPIs outside of this one, then there's a link to my calendar, or you can just shoot me an email. But that's it for this one, and I'll see you in future videos.